Hi, and welcome to the Call Girls Investment Club podcast. This is Diana Becker. That's Michael Becker.
Hi, I'm Michael Becker.
I'm Diana Becker. Do you know what moved the stock market this week?
It was politics.
Politics, yes. So who's going to win the election, which they still are predicting it's going to be Biden's sweep, Democratic sweep.
Right.
They meaning the media.
Okay.
So I think on the last podcast, I did a prediction about, I said the stock market's telling me that Trump's going to win, which is really weird because all the media says Biden's going to win.
Do
you remember me say
yes.
that? Okay, so after that, I did analysis. I did some research, and there's this company called Trafalgar that does polls, and Trafalgar was the only polling company that got the 2016 election when Trump won and like blew everybody away. Nobody was expecting it. Like nobody but Trafalgar was expecting it, right? So I read this article about them, and the way they did it is they asked people, who are you going to vote for? But then they asked them, who is your neighbor going to vote for? And the thing is, people were afraid to admit they wanted to vote for Trump because it was like really looked down upon by a lot of people, you know, like this year. So they wouldn't admit they were going to vote for Trump. They wouldn't say, or they'd say Biden, even though they were voting for Trump, because they were ashamed because everybody was like saying it's politically incorrect, you know?
Right.
So by asking them, who is your neighbor going to vote for? They were able to actually figure out that Trump was way ahead of where he was, and they predicted he would win, and nobody else did. So I looked up Trafalgar's website, and they didn't say who they predict is going to win, but they had numbers up for every state. That was like I researched like 25 states. I made a spreadsheet. I figured out how many electoral college votes each state had.
Right.
And I added them up, and I figured out Trump's going to win based on the polls from last week. So I posted to my club that this actually says Trump's possibly going to win. And Wednesday, this was on Monday. Wednesday, articles come out in the newspapers saying Trafalgar predicts Trump win. And I'm like, did somebody read what I posted and like do a story about it? But it's basically in the news now that Trafalgar is predicting a Trump win, and they were the only accurate ones 4 years ago.
Right.
So I think I was wrong, though, about some things. Like, I thought that the stock market was moving on a Trump win. I feel like this week it wasn't. I feel like this week it's like in the doldrums. The stock market is just like flat.
You know what else is weird is I've been invested in RTRX, Retrofin, and while a lot of the time the stock market's movement wasn't affecting Retrofin, this week it has. Retrofin has just been slowly going down this whole week. And I still feel like there's a lot of potential for it to go up. I think I'm going to stick with it for now, but I do think that this week there might be something different going on. I don't know.
I know everybody was... So Nancy Pelosi said, I'll give Trump 48 hours to make a deal. That's my deadline. And it was like, she said this on the weekend, last weekend. And I'm like, well, what's she going to do after 48 hours? Stop negotiating? She can't do that. She'll look stupid, right?
Right.
So they kept saying, oh, we're making such progress. We have 48 hours. We have to do it in the 48 hours. And I thought she's going to really look dumb to her party if she doesn't make a deal in 48 hours. So they'll definitely make a deal in 48 hours, you know? That was Monday and Tuesday. So the whole stock market believed that, and it went up on Monday and Tuesday, but then it kind of like they gave up, you know, the stock market gave up, and they're like, no, they're never going to make a deal. And it's true. All week, they still didn't make a deal. You don't even hear about it in the news anymore.
Right.
I think it doesn't matter because before or after the election, what does it matter? There's like 3 months after that where we're waiting for the new people to come in. It doesn't matter if it's before or after the election. They'll either pass it or they won't. And I feel like over time, it's already priced into the market, whatever it is they're going to do. Although I think if they made a deal, it would spike up. Are you disappointed that they don't?
I don't know. I'm just like,
You're so sick of politics still?
A little, and also I don't like the idea of not getting a deal at this point.
Everybody agrees it's horrible for the economy of the nation. It's killing small business. All that's going to be left is the big businesses like Amazon. And everybody agrees it's devastating to our economy if they don't make a deal. And it's always politics, both sides probably. They both think that it's going to make the other one look bad if they don't get a deal, which is true because they both look bad.
Right.
So that's in the news. Although I kind of feel like, okay, so this is TQQQ. I sent out this, I think it was on Wednesday, this line.
Right.
No, it was Thursday. See that line I drew?
Mm-hmm.
I'll post this. This, basically, I noticed there was a ceiling before where it kept butting up against 132. And then in this last week, it went up higher, on hopes of a deal or whatever it was on. I think it was on, I thought it was on the fact that Trump's going to win, which nobody believed last week. Now this week, people are really coming out of the woodwork supporting Trump. I guess there's like hundreds of people protesting for Trump. There was a Joe Biden. Okay, so Joe Biden all week didn't really do any tours or speeches, and Trump went to all these different states. Okay, Biden did a speech in Pennsylvania yesterday.
Right.
Trump did Arizona, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Florida, and he did multiple appearances in those. This is a guy who got over COVID like a couple weeks ago. And Pence went to Maine, Pennsylvania, New Hampshire, Ohio, Michigan, and Indiana. And meanwhile, Biden's like, oh, social distancing. I'm staying in the basement and preparing for my debate, right?
Right.
So there's this appearance Biden did where he went to do a speech in Pennsylvania, and they showed pictures of it, and it was like miles of people with Trump signs. His motorcade was driving up to the speech, and there was one guy with a Biden sign, and there was like thousands of people with Trump signs. I feel like there's a lot of support for Trump that nobody talks about. So my theory could be right about Trump possibly winning.
I don't know. At this point, I'm just like out.
Peace out. So anyway, the whole week has kind of been doldrums, and I think it's not based on a Trump win. I think it's based on the lack of COVID relief.
I agree.
Everybody's just waiting for the election. Everyone's just waiting to see who wins. And I think both sides think it's like neck and neck, and nobody knows. It's like a horse race where they're coming down the stretch, and everyone's just quiet now.
Right.
So the stock market did like almost nothing this week. There was also the scandal about Hunter Biden. Did you hear about that? Where his laptop, his hard drive got left at a computer store, and they found all these emails on it that the guy who owned the computer store basically ended up in possession of the hard drive because he abandoned it. So he turned it into the authorities, and there's all this child porn and stuff.
Oh, my God.
But there's these emails that say that they were basically taking bribes from people from Russia and China, and
Right.
that Joe Biden was involved. So the Biden campaign they eventually responded to it. Joe Biden never did, but somebody from the campaign did, and they pretty much didn't deny it for days and days.
Right.
I guess it's kind of legal to take kickbacks, but I think they just didn't take a position. So that's all Trump talked about during the debate, I hear. Now,
Yeah, he brought it up a lot.
I only saw a few minutes of the debate. I was going to play it later because we had a guest. So I watched question 1, and that's it. And a little bit with you. And I remember hearing Trump bring it up.
Yeah. Literally every question.
Really good. Somebody should ask Biden about it because he never talks about it. I want to know what he thinks.
Biden basically denied it the whole time.
He did deny it?
Yeah.
Okay. So I only reviewed question 1 from the debate, and that was on the COVID response that Trump did. And I was kind of curious, so I did some math and research. The one side, Joe Biden's side, says 200,000 people died. This is the worst ever, 8 million people got COVID. You did a terrible job, Donald Trump. And Donald Trump's like, it was predicted 22 million people would get it, and we should have a lot more deaths, and what I did stopped it. So I thought, okay, let's do some numbers and see which side is truthful or whatever, or where it stands in the scheme of things. So I did some research on the flu. 45 million people get the flu every year. 40 to 45 million people get the flu. So if it's spreadable at the same level as the flu, there should be 45 million people who got it, not 8 million.
Right.
It's been a year, almost a year. And this is actually for 6 months, the flu numbers. So COVID is more catching than the flu. So the number should be even higher than 45 million. But only 8 million people got COVID. So I feel like that means we're ahead of the curve a little bit, and it's good news. I don't think it's bad news.
What if there are different circumstances around COVID than just the
There are. I think we did a great job. I think people avoided getting COVID by doing masks, shutting down, not letting the Chinese people who were infected come in early on, so we had time to gear up. You know how there was a mask shortage?
Right.
So basically that's what I'm comparing is rather than an average flu, which would be 45 million people, this is a serious illness and only 8 million people got it.
Right.
So that's what my point was.
Okay.
So I think we did okay so far. So there's vaccines that are in production. There's hundreds of thousands of vaccines in production that as soon as they get approved, which they think will happen in early December or late November, they'll start approving them. Now, somebody died last week. This was big news. Somebody in the vaccine trial, the Swedish one, AstraZeneca, died. And that was big news. Well, you know, the guy who died, he died of COVID. This was in a vaccine trial. But you know what a vaccine trial does? Basically, they give 3 groups of people. One gets nothing. One gets placebo, a shot of something unrelated to COVID, and one gets the COVID vaccine. And the guy who died was in the unrelated to COVID group.
Right.
So if he had gotten the vaccine, he might not have died, but he definitely did not die from the vaccine. So that's irrelevant to the vaccine trial. So, and they're in late stage trials, so I think they're doing pretty good. The treatment for when people are sick with it, the remdesivir that Trump got, there were a lot of articles, the FDA hasn't approved it. Well, the FDA approved it for emergency use when Trump used it. Now this week, the FDA came out and said, no, we're approving it for everybody.
Right, cool.
So it's fast-tracked so everybody can get it. Also on Friday, a court ruled on the Lyft and Uber thing. They said that Lyft and Uber still have to do follow the gig worker law where they have to pay them as if they're employees. So like if I go work for Uber or Lyft part-time, they still have to pay me like health insurance and all that stuff. That's what 22 is about, Proposition 22. So this is irrelevant actually, because as soon as Proposition 22 is voted on, that won't. This is like a delayed effect. They don't have to do it right away. And after Proposition 22 is voted on, it might be irrelevant.
Right.
I think Prop 22 will pass.
I think it will too, because just like, I don't even think it's like a situation where there's one party for it and one party against it. I think just about both Democrat and Republican agree that Prop 22 should pass.
Yeah, I mean, that's the impression I got. You have a lot of Democrat friends. Do you feel like they're for it?
Not really. I'm just going off of like literally the way it's been one of the most advertised propositions, and the fact that the way they're advertising it is saying literally the people who would supposedly be like hurt by this proposition are saying vote for it. So it's like
drivers,
literally
people,
the drivers
single moms,
are saying vote.
Yeah, those are the people they're protecting, you know.
Yeah.
Single moms, blind people.
Yeah.
People like my daughter who rides to auditions.
Yeah.
Just so many people are against it.
Yeah.
You know, they try to, this is like in medicine, they say first do no harm. It's sort of like in government. They try to fix things all the time and put their mark on things. They should really think about the repercussions first. Okay, on Thursday, Tesla reported their earnings. I used to be a big Tesla follower. I knew everything that was going on with them. I could see into the future all these amazing things they were going to do. And now I don't really follow them because they're just doing all the amazing things I knew they would do. But they had a 5th quarter of profit. Everyone said, they'll never be profitable. This is the 5th quarter. This is like a whole year and a quarter of making profits all the time. They made so many cars this quarter. If they just keep this up, they'd make 500,000 cars a year, which is just going to increase because they keep building. I think Tesla's great. So Jim Cramer, you know who else did good? Snap. Do you know Snapchat?
Yes.
Do you use Snapchat?
No.
Jim Cramer came out with an article. He said, ask your kids, basically. On Wednesday, he said, if you really want to know what to invest in, ask your kids what they're using. And I think it's funny, you're not using Snapchat. Gaby's not using Snapchat. But I heard this interview on the Business Channel. I think a lot of people are gravitating over to Snapchat.
You know what the reason is, right? We're not kids anymore, so we don't know.
Would you have some kids so I can ask them? Okay, but actually, no, I take that back because actually, we were in the car yesterday. Actually, that's what I was going to say. And we were in the car yesterday and Gaby was using Snapchat. And I'm like, why are you using Snapchat? Is that the one that disappears after you type it? And she's like, yeah. And I guess that's the new thing. But yeah. Honestly, on the Business Channel, judging from the numbers, that's the new thing. And I asked her, the way they make money, they have advertising, I guess. And also you can buy things like filters on Snapchat.
Oh, great. DLC filter. Microtransactions. Let's go.
So here's Snapchat up 10% because they reported their earnings and they were everybody expected them to lose a certain amount of money. They didn't lose money. They made money.
Yeah.
Then Netflix reported. That's their chart.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, they lost money. So Jim Cramer thinks it's a good buying opportunity for Netflix. I think what happened is their numbers showed they spent a lot more than they made. But I think that's because they're growing, so they're spending money on more product and stuff. I
think that the thing with Netflix you have to consider is the same thing with all the streaming services, where you have every single TV channel that used to be you pay for cable to get them has been coming out of the woodworks like, okay, we're no longer able to make the money from cable we used to because people aren't using cable anymore. They're using subscription services. And so instead of selling their properties off to Netflix or Hulu, everyone is trying to make their own streaming service. Their own, okay, here's a website you can go on to watch our shows, and we make ad revenue off of that, or you pay a subscription. And the problem with that is that for so many of them, I feel like over time, these are either going to fail, you'll probably see new big ones, but in the meanwhile, people like Netflix and people like Hulu are going to have a harder and harder time keeping those shows in their roster. And so what Netflix's strategy is, it seems to be making more original content and trying to hold on to the movie side of things at the very least. Netflix has been focusing more on movies and Hulu has been focusing more on TV shows, I believe.
Well, I don't know about that, but I do know when I sit down to watch something with Gabriella, it's always Netflix. And they use their AI, their algorithms and stuff to see what people are clicking on, how long they stay on it, when they tune out, and they figure out what people want using these techniques.
Right.
So I feel like as a production house, they got it nailed. Because every single time we're going to go watch a movie, I'm like, is it on Amazon? No, it's only on Netflix. But the thing that they were saying on the Business Channel is that Netflix has produced so much stuff. They have so much content, they're not going to run out. Whereas everybody else has been stringing along for a while on what they had in their library, and they're out. They're completely out. And if they don't start producing, they're going to not have any content except reruns.
Right.
So that was another point Cramer made.
That's another good point. Like, I mean, Witcher Season 2 is coming out.
Is that Netflix?
Yep.
Yeah, we were watching it, but I don't know where it was. I just love that. It was great. Everything I watch with you guys is on net. We don't even have a TV. We just watch the internet, and I love this.
We have one TV. It's over in my room.
If I want the news, I just watch. If I want the debate, anything like that, I just watch it on YouTube.
Yeah. You do too.
This is the chart. This is a chart for Netflix. Cramer said it is a buy, but it's down there for 3 days. You see how it was down there for 3 days?
Yeah.
So I feel like anybody who was going to get out of it probably did, but I was kind of surprised it didn't go back up right away.
That's fair.
Maybe because there's more exciting things to buy, like Snapchat and Tesla.
Yeah.
You know, people like to buy what's exciting.
Yeah.
Especially Robinhood traders like you. Okay, what else? Going back in time. Cryptocurrency.
Ooh, did it shoot up?
Okay, you noticed that, right?
I didn't. I wasn't.
I got goosebumps. No, PayPal is going to carry Bitcoin that you can buy and trade on PayPal. That really makes it much better because I don't know. Actually, if you paid it, I have a thought. People want to buy and trade Bitcoin so that it's not part of the public record, right?
Right.
Like in the coming Armageddon or whatever.
Well, it is part of the public record. That's kind of
on PayPal it would be. PayPal it would be, but if you just bought and sold Bitcoin directly, then no one would know you had it. Nobody could figure it out.
I thought the way Bitcoin worked was it has a public record.
There's no public record. Oh, it's public, but it's encrypted with your password. Nobody knows who you are.
Right.
If you make a bunch of money on Bitcoin, but you bought and sold it directly, the IRS will never know. If there's a great civil unrest after the election, and maybe somebody wants to take away something from you, if you got Bitcoin, you can survive because you have this hidden cash that no one can take away from you.
Right.
So that's an appeal, and you can't do that with PayPal. But I just think we did notice a rise in Bitcoin after that, right?
Right.
There was a rise in PayPal after that, but PayPal really doesn't benefit from it at all. This cat is so demanding. Was that the cat?
That was the cat.
Oh, there's one more thing I want to say about current events. Did you get cat hair in your eye?
No, I'm good.
Okay, a bunch of Democrats got emails. It said, we're emailing you from the Proud Boys, and you better vote for Trump or else we're going to come for you. Did you hear about that?
I heard about that from you.
From me, yeah. So it wasn't from the Proud Boys at all. It was foreign countries trying to mess with our election, make Trump look bad.
Right.
Like Iran, the FBI is the one who broke this story, and I was surprised because actually the FBI is the one that will not talk about the Hunter Biden thing. They got, like 6 months ago, they got the hard drive of Hunter Biden, and they're not talking about it because they really, I feel like in general, they really don't support Trump. The FBI's like on the opposite side. But they admitted that this was like a conspiracy to try to make Trump look bad.
Right.
So do you have a feeling about who's going to win the election?
Nope.
I don't have a feel. I do not have a feeling, but logically, I'm really thinking that Trump might really surprise people. He was farther behind with Hillary Clinton than he is now.
He might.
There's been a lot of earnings releases this week. You know, it's earnings season, which every 3 months is a quarter, and every 3 months there's this series of earnings releases from all the companies on the stock market where they publicize what their numbers are and they say what their projections are. And so it started. And there's a lot of really good numbers coming out. But the stock market isn't reacting. It's just in this doldrums period. So that makes me think that when it finally goes one way or the other, it'll go pretty far. If it breaks through upward, it'll go pretty far.
I think that's an interesting perspective.
That and the thing that I told you earlier about this, we're hitting as if it's a floor, the old ceiling.
Yeah, yeah.
That's current events. You know, there were these guys, they work for Blackrock, and they made predictions last year of 20 things they thought would be a surprise this year. And I was going to share those and like go over them because on CNBC they were talking about how these guys were right, but for the wrong reasons. They had one of the guys on there telling, oh, I made all these predictions that came true. But then I printed out the predictions, and it's like every single one of them is wrong. So I'm like, he's just like saying he made predictions that came true. So anyway, they haven't made their predictions for 2021 yet. He can't decide what to predict.
Oh, boy.
I don't blame that guy.
What was his prediction?
Do you want to hear some of them?
Yeah.
Recession is avoided. That's actually false because of COVID. Wealth inequality and climate change dominate election themes. Well, I think violence and some COVID are dominating election
Yeah.
themes. Let's see what those predictions are. No trade deal is reached. We did reach a trade deal with China. Self-driving cars come closer to the forefront, but a series of accidents with the vehicles cause a major manufacturer tech company to drop out of the autonomous vehicle race. Actually, I thought I heard Elon Musk say that they're going to have self-driving cars by the end of the year now. Fully self-driving cars. Yeah. Under the weight of sanctions, Iran starts lashing out at Israel and Saudi Arabia, and oil soars above $70 a barrel. Oil sank.
Oh, no.
Oil sank to all record lows, like $20 a barrel.
Negative $10 a barrel.
Yeah, it was. I remember. And there's like peace in the Middle East because Trump negotiated the thing with Israel and Lebanon. A volatile market, a surge of enthusiasm pushing the S&P above 3,500. Well, it did go above 3,500. That's right when we got COVID, wasn't it?
Right.
And I think it's there again.
Right.
Big tech faces growing social and governmental scrutiny. Well, that's happening. They keep suing Google and saying you have a monopoly. They keep pointing fingers at Facebook and Twitter and saying you shouldn't shut down these articles on your whim, you know?
Yeah.
But nothing's going to happen about it because they've already sued Google in the past and
Right.
nothing happens. They just bring them in front of Congress and talk to them for a while, and then it's like, okay. Brexit deal in place, and UK turns out to be the big winner. I don't know what's happening in Europe. I don't know what's happening with Brexit, but I think whatever was happening probably got shut down. Negative rates continue abroad. The U.S. economy slows, but the benchmark 10-year Treasury approaches 2.5% while the yield curve steepens. Actually, the yield curve sank, and the Treasury yield went like to almost nothing. And that's that interest rate I was telling you about where it drags stocks down with it.
Right.
And that's all because of COVID. Boeing finally turns it around, and the 737 MAX issues are fixed, and Boeing stock returns to the top of the heap. Well, they did fix the problem with that plane, the 737. It's back in production and circulation. That's true, but I don't think Boeing's at the top of the heap of stocks. No, Fang is. So there you go. Well, here's their additional predictions. Anarchy and disharmony continue to spread as populism grows. That's true. There's definitely anarchy. Putin's influence diminishes and Russia grows closer with China. That might be true. North Korea suspends its nuclear development program after Kim Jong-un meets with Trump again. Well, Trump did meet with him originally, but he got criticized heavily for that, and then things developed kind of away from that. They haven't met again.
Right.
So, what are your predictions for 2021? We may as well make them now.
War.
I do occasionally do tarot cards, and I got the one for war.
War.
Did I tell you I got the war one yesterday?
This will happen.
You think so?
I
read an article.
I don't want to say it will happen, but I think it will happen.
Okay, everybody's armed, right? Guns are sold out. Ammunition's sold out. Classes where you take how to shoot your gun are sold out.
Okay, let's go to the next segment.
Wait a minute. And then there's these guidebooks that I came across online. If Trump wins, these are the ways we're going to shut down life as usual. And I haven't read the details yet because I figured I should know what they're planning to do. But they're planning to block freeways. I don't know if they're planning to blow things up or not, but I'm definitely going to stay home if possible after the election.
Right.
Although we do have a guest coming, so we'll probably be out on the streets, actually.
Okay.
Well, let's skip the current events now and go to how to. I do want to say one thing. I remember I bought that short-term option, and I said that the risk versus the reward made me want to keep it. I had bought an option that was going to expire on Friday, and it had lost so much money that it was almost worthless. But if they made a deal on the COVID relief, I thought it would shoot up and it might be worth more. So every day, this option kind of cut its value in half every day of the week. And I kept thinking, they're going to make a deal by Friday. Every single reasonable person knows we need it, knows that they both look stupid not getting it. And knows it's hurting a lot of people. And then they set the deadline, and I just kept thinking, they're going to make a deal. They're going to make a deal, and they didn't make a deal. So as it's declining, it's worth so little. I thought it's worth it just to keep it till the end of the week.
I think they're only going to make a deal after COVID it stops being a problem. Like literally, it'll stop being a problem, and then they'll be like, "Okay, let's make a deal now that just give everyone the money they should have gotten." And
they did say
it'll keep being a thing after COVID. It's no longer a problem.
They said they'd do it retroactively, but how do you pay people retroactively who've already become homeless? They can't go back.
Here's the money.
Yeah, you get money, but you can't go back to your apartment.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's wrong.
Yeah,
and if the businesses
sucks.
that shut down and fired people, and those people will never be coming back.
Yeah.
I think you're right, and they're wrong.
Okay.
I was telling you about the option I owned. So it was decreasing in value, and it was expiration date of Friday. Right. So do you know what happens when you own an option and it expires?
You get to exercise it.
So if it's worth something, they call you up and they say, would you like to buy the stock at the strike price of the option, or would you like us to pay you the value?
Right.
But in my case, do you know what my option was worth on Friday?
Nothing.
Yes, that's correct. 0. So I don't have to do that.
Oh, no.
It's just a relief. I didn't have to make a decision.
You should have sold when I told you to sell.
Well, now in retrospect, yeah, but I thought for sure they'd make it.
I told you.
Yeah, you were correct. And
I was 100% right.
And do you know why you were right? Because I told you they're never going to make a deal.
I was 100% right.
I was right before, and I didn't listen to myself.
This is a big thing.
Well, it was only a couple thousand by the time you said that.
I guess.
It was a 10,000 bet originally.
Okay.
Bummer. I still do have my long-term bet, but now I'm kind of wondering.
Wait, you still have your long-term one? I thought this was the long-term one.
No, that was a short-term one.
Oh, okay.
The long-term one is expiring in December. So most options expire the third week of the month, the big long-term ones.
Right.
And then they usually expire on a Friday. And then the shorter-term ones expire on a Friday, like in 1 week, in 2 weeks. So it was worth 0, and I didn't do anything, and it's gone now. Just disappears into outer space.
Goodbye.
So that's the how-to part of our podcast about trading options.
Don't do that.
Okay, psychologically, do we have anything to say at all?
Don't buy options long-term.
Well, I don't know. I'm starting to disagree now because my long-term option, any time between now and December, if some magnificent thing happens and it shoots up, I can cash out when it's high.
So you're counting on a miracle then?
Well, there's that. But I pretty much sat out of the day trading all week.
Right.
And it's probably good I did. I'm just going to wait.
Okay, let's see.
I mean,
see how that pays off.
The worst time to trade options is when you're in doldrums and it's just going along and nobody knows. If you knew what's going to happen, it would be the best time to trade options. But if you're just in like a flat kind of market, not going in either direction, you're basically going to buy something, and if the price of the stock's worth the same at the end of the week, your option's just going to go down in value the whole week.
Right.
So there you go. Okay. Do we want to close on anything positive?
No, I don't have anything positive to you.
Yes. No matter who wins, I think everybody wants the same thing, and I think there's good people on both sides. Now I sound like a Trump supporter just saying that, because nobody believes there's good people on both sides in the Democratic Party.
No one believes there's good people on both sides in either party.
I found out a lot of my friends, first of all, I didn't know a lot of my friends were on the same side as me till I sort of came out. And I found out that a lot of my friends who are not on the same side of me are still really close friends. And they're like, are you kidding? Life's too short.
Right.
So they're still my friends. And the ones, I honestly think the ones who have unfriended me because of my political position, I look back on it and I'm like, maybe they were never really that good of a friend if they could let that happen.
Yeah.
So I feel like in the end of this, I'm going to know who my real friends are, and there's a lot of good people in the world, and it will end. And those are my positive thoughts for the day.
Okay. Bye, everyone.
Is that positive enough for you?
Have a good week. I hope it's better than this week because, oh, my God.
Oh, my God. Well, there is a comet coming, so if we screw up, we'll just all get wiped out, right?
I think the comet will burn up in the atmosphere.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And it'll just be like a tiny rock, and it'll kill one person.
I was honestly looking to it like a way out of this horrible year.
Okay, bye, everyone.
Bye.